and welcome to Stoked, the ultimate Star Trek Online podcast. My name is Chris. This is episode 107, a very special community feedback edition.
Right.
And welcome to Community Feedback. Boy, do we have a big one for you this week. So we're talking about Voldemort, and we thought we'd get the source on the line right there. So Al Rivera has joined us from Cryptic, as well as two of the guys from Jupiter Force, Mav and Irish, who have a little experience with this exploit, so we'll talk about that. Plus, we might even get a little details about the upcoming holiday event if we can pry that out of Al. But, Mav, why don't we start with the Voldemort exploit and what that is exactly?
Well, let me first start off by clarifying, when somebody says a Voldemort exploit, the Voldemort exploit is actually a blanket name used for exploits that in the past the community has said, hey, we have a problem with this exploit, and for some reason either the threads get closed on the STO forums or players get banned. Now, let me start off with a straight disclaimer. I'm not endorsing the use of any of these exploits that we may discuss today. However, the community has been trying to get some attention on it, and we feel here at Stoked it's time to maybe shed a little bit better light on it. And how are we doing that? Well, we took the few that we got the most messages about, and we took it out and tested it. This particular Voldemort here is what we call the double shield exploit. And what it essentially does is any particular player, whether in PvP or PvE, out of combat, can double their shields. It's almost like you have two shields in one. Now, does that mean you can use the highest capacity shield like a Cap 3 and do it twice over? No, not exactly. The way it seems to come out in testing is whatever shield you have equipped, if you pull this particular event off, during shield healing or taking damage, it's like if you're taking, instead of having 4 facings, it's like you have 8 facings. And
so you have like double the shields.
So you have essentially double the shields. Now, you're not going to see it graphically represented exactly unless you're paying real close attention to the number ticking that you would see in space, which became very evident when we started actually practicing this.
Okay. So you guys, you and Irish are actually able to reproduce this?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we tested it both in PvP combat and in PvE combat in the STFs.
Oh, okay. Now, Al, you've been nice enough to join us to talk a little about it from Cryptic's perspective. Do you have any insights you want to share with us on this one?
Well, I can give you some background. Some of this I think is going to be interesting because I'd be curious if you guys know more about it than we do, which is starting to sound like you actually might. But where it started that I had heard that if you took some damage in your shields and then you did like a emergency power to shields, and then as soon as combat was over, if you swapped the shields back and forth, that you could get your shields to like maximum health right away. And so we took a look at that, and we actually found a problem with that. And the problem is that shields have a passive power built into them. We call them shield emitters, that every 6 seconds it gives you a percentage of healed back to your shields based on your auxiliary power or other factors.
Okay.
That happens at tick 0 and then tick 6 and then tick 12. So if you swap your shields back and forth, you kept resetting the timer. So that way, if you just left your shield alone, it's every 6 seconds you get some shield health. But if you swap it out, the new shield, it started its timer. So you could then boop, 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 your shields would just fill all the way up as fast as you could click and swap them.
Assuming you weren't in combat, right?
Yes, because you can't swap your items in combat.
Yeah.
So what we did is we changed that timer so it never happens on the first tick. So if you try to do that, you actually never get any shield healing at this point.
Okay.
So you just never get a shield healing on the first tick, and that to us seemed like resolved the issues that we were seeing. And then we saw the issue that no, if you do something weird, which we couldn't even exactly figure out what the steps were, but we could swap shields and then enter combat and then take some damage and then do emergency power shields, and all of a sudden see 8 ticks in the combat log saying that normally it's 4. It's not actually 4 ticks. It's just 1 for each shield. It's not it's not an HOT. It's actually just you'll see 100 shield repair. I can't remember what the chat log says, but it will say 8 instead. And then if you do it again, it actually won't show any. So I wasn't sure what was going on there, but I kept looking at it, and I locally changed the heal to only shield exactly 1,000 shield power, so that way it wasn't dealing with any variables of skills or anything. And I activated it, and it said, heal 1,000, heal 1,000, heal 1,000. I said it 8 times, but I actually only got 1,000 to each one of my 4 shields. So we kind of figured at that point it looked like it was a chat log error.
Okay.
So I'm not quite at that point. That's
and we saw Heretic this last week post that it looks like it might just be a display bug in the form.
Right. That's what he meant by that. That it was simply in there. So that's as far as we got. Now you're saying that you're actually thinking that you're getting both shields mods on the ship at the same time.
Well, as far as mods goes, what occurs is it seems to double your shield facings. Whatever shields you have equipped is what ends up being the power around. So I'm just, now that you've said about the whole swapping thing, the test we specifically ran was with the Borg shield and the Aegis shield. And my thinking was, okay, well, however I choose to activate this particular exploit, I'm going to make sure that the last shield I have equipped is the Aegis shield that had the higher capacity. So what I would do is I'd, execute whatever it was I was doing to activate this particular chain of events, and then I had a couple of ships fire at me. Now, I don't even have to activate extend shields or emergency power to shields. I can simply just hit balance shield facing, and there was an ungodly quick refresh almost to full every time I hit it. Now, if I started to take any particular heavy damage to any particular facing, all I had to do was use emergency power to shields or have somebody do extend shields on me, and I can indefinitely take that damage for quite some time, not including the bleed through, obviously.
So are you finding that you're not actually getting more? Say you don't have more shield hit points in one facing, so whatever you have 5,000 on one facing from the Aegis. I'm just making the number up. You didn't actually have more, but you're just getting double the healing and the double the transfer.
What it appears, it's more than that. I don't know how the math works it out, but if you can imagine your standard ring of shields. And then imagine with this particular exploit that you have another hidden ring of shields standing by at almost full energy. Whatever your first shield facing is, you're going to take that damage, whatever it is. And it's not like you're doubling the actual. I think I see what you're getting at. You're not doubling the actual facing. What it is it's like there's a shadow facing just beneath it. That when you hit the refresh, it draws from that shadow and reheals your ship's shields.
Okay.
Now, of course, if you stack the Aegis with the Borg and then you end up with the Aegis as your primary, you only need 3 parts of the Borg set to get the regenerative ability. So you're talking a high facing plus the regenerative ability, plus now having this double-loaded shield.
Now, the shield that I had second equipped was the Aegis jet. So on an escort, or an MVAM, I was getting 8419 for each facing. Okay. Now, what we could see was we had a guy with a Garumba hit me with I can't remember the name of the thing. It's like the phase lance equivalent on the Garumba. It hit me with that attack. Now what happens is you see the 8419 disappear. You see the hull start to take damage. All I had to do was click on the redistribute power to front shield, and within a second the entire shield is filled. I did take the hull damage. I was still taking hits from the guy, but my shield went straight back up.
Okay, well that's really very interesting information. If Maverick and Irish, if you could send your repro steps to Chris, could you send me that information? If you even have some fraps or something, that would be great. And I kind of got a little idea on how possibly to fix it. I don't know why it's possibly happened. It sounds something more in code, but I think I have a little hack that I might be able to at least fix it quickly.
We haven't had a chance, though, to also test whether this mechanic crosses into ground shields and ground combat. We were thinking about testing that. We didn't have time with production of the show. We were hoping that, that it was isolated to just space combat and not ground. But then we thought, well, mathematically, it could be possible as well, just in case. But we haven't had a chance to test that.
I honestly don't see why it wouldn't work on the ground if it's doing what I think it's doing. The only difference between the ground and the space shields is that the space shields I mean, they're basically 4 shields built into one, just for one for each quadrant.
Right.
So it's entirely possible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Al, why we have you on here? Can we pick your brain a little bit about the holiday stuff? Because I think that's going to be hitting the week that this episode comes out. There's probably not a ton you can share, but any details you might be able to share with us, we'd be grateful.
Yeah, there's going to be very little details that I can share with you. We're definitely really keeping this quiet for now. We've done a little bit of work. It's not a massive event, but I think it's going to be a really, really fun event. There's going to be, all I can really tell you is that there will be some in-game event content involved. There will be presents and prizes involved, and
Presents, huh?
yeah.
Cool.
And
I have to say, are some of the presents rocket boots?
No, you'd never be that lucky.
yeah. Everyone keeps asking about rocket boots.
Troll.
We've actually experimented with a little bit of rocket boots, and well, the first thing is that what we can't do with rocket boots is give players, a permanent fly ability or even a temporary fly ability. It's just going to break all the maps. Unlike City of Heroes or Champions, right, where the game were built for flying.
Right.
If you let you fly in Star Trek, you'll just fly right off the map, and they'll use.
I do that sometimes in demo.
The fourth wall will just go away.
I do that in the demo playback tool every now and then. I go
Yeah,
in there.
exactly. The demo play. That's exactly what will happen. The maps. Now there could be rocket boots for special maps if we wanted to do something like that, or we could have basically more of a hover boot that would just be an animation that's just hover you a few inches or a few feet off the ground.
Cool. That'd be cool.
That sort of thing.
It seemed like maybe maps like the Vault might lend themselves better to flying around. So I could see where you're saying mission specific
a map
things.
like that, some sort of like 0G map.
Yeah.
The problem with doing things like rocket boots is like, wow, why can't they just do that so easy? Is that it's really not hard to do a little rocket boot animation. I think, Chris, you might have actually seen some rocket boot-like animations when you came and visited.
Yep.
But that's the easy part. The hard part then is every single kit power animation has to be rebuilt to work in a hovering stance animation. It's redoing every ground animation for every time we want to do something like that.
Oh, yeah, of course, right.
So it's a lot of work.
Right.
So that's why those things don't happen very quickly. That's why you don't see something like Tholians in right away, because they have to be all their animations they're not going to work as a bipedal animation.
Right.
So it's just it's all the attacks, all the hit effects. If you're going to hit a Tholian, he's now a different skeleton. He's going to have to react differently. He's going to have to go like this, or if he's going to freeze, if you put him in a stasis field, that his animation has to be to support that.
Yeah.
So those are a lot of work to do different things like that. There talks about, if we do a rocket boots, well then maybe we should do it with, but it never works in combat, right? So that way, as soon as you enter combat, we just touch on, it stops you on the floor. But then again, you don't want everybody running around flying all the time in rocket boots. So we're trying to please.
So that you smashed the rumor there won't be any rocket boots coming out of the holiday event.
No, there won't be rocket boots.
So it is on target though for the week. Hopefully we'll see that this episode comes out.
Yeah, it's already done. It's
Okay.
Like I said, there will be some in-game event. There will be prizes, and there will also be a C-store tie-in. And I think we've talked a little bit about that because the people who are in the overachievers on the dilithium conversion will be getting some complimentary of those things that will be in the C-store. So
Now-
there's going to be a lot of tie-ins, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
There was a rumor going around that our very own Jeremy might have had some hand in the holiday event. Do you have?
Yes, that's actually. I'm sorry, I failed to mention it. Jeremy has primarily been the one implementing all the data for this event. Not the content type stuff, but the prizes and the things.
So this year Stowe's having a very J-Man Christmas.
Yeah. Maybe he can come on board and talk about his experience with his first real assignments.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Al, thanks for coming on and.
Sure. J-Man's been great. I got a new nickname for him. I call him Tron. Tron, because he fights for the users. So he brings us a lot of really good insight, especially from Jupiter Force and
That's awesome.
and the perspective that players on, because we all play and we're all in guilds, but we're all in Cryptic guilds, right?
Right.
And so J-Man's out there with you guys.
With the other perspective, yeah.
It's just it's a completely different perspective.
Good.
You just have to be careful because you're mixing too many things there. Like, you're in that room there, you're wearing a Green Lantern t-shirt, you're now referring to J-Man/Bort as Tron.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to cause a black hole, man.
That's some sort of nerd singularity.
My Christmas tree is full of superheroes and Star Trek and Star Wars, and I got Tronic and Cylons and everything. So
I was telling the wife that when I was a kid, the Christmas tree would turn into the Mutara Nebula or the crystalline entity, depending on the year. And it was always the Christmas tree always became the geek thing in the living room.
Yeah.
Well, you can't talk about Crystal Entity around here unless Silverwings is involved.
Right. Well, Al, thanks for coming on and busting a few rumors with us and giving us it straight from the back channel, because I think there's been a lot of different theories kicked around on this one. So I really appreciate you coming on and giving us the official
I really
take.
appreciate the extra info. So I look forward to seeing what you guys have found, and we'll see if we can squash this once and for all.
Right on.
We can.
The video should be able to help you a lot because you'll see the actual effect taking place and the numbers at the same time.
Yeah.
And this is on this wasn't on holodeck. No, this was on old holodeck. This is on holodeck current, right?
Yeah, this is holodeck current, as in we did this test. Yeah, we did this test earlier today.
Okay, yeah. Because I wanted to make sure, because that would have been different, because that definitely was broken on old holodeck a week ago.
All right, gentlemen. Anything else you want to cover in the community feedback before we wrap up?
Nothing I'm aware of. I mean, I'm watching the live chat. Some people asking about dilithium and crafting and this, that, and the other. Best thing I can say is keep the community feedback coming. Send those emails. As you can see, we look at them, we read them. If we get one that's a hot topic, and we're lucky to have Al come on with us today, send it to us. We'll do it. We'll research it. We'll get it together, and we'll put it out there because the community is what keeps us going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and as far as crafting is concerned, if I don't know if all of your viewers play on Tribble or have been reading the Tribble forums, but crafting did change, and we recognize some of the issues that players have. But as I posted on the Tribble forums before, we did our best to make sure that crafting. We tried to preserve as much as we could with the integrity of crafting. That's why we introduced the little dilithium tokens. I can't remember what we call them, so that way you can trade your dilithium and tokens for someone else to trade them. Mm-hmm. But there was a major concern about you can be a crafter and you can go to the exchange and then just instantly buy all your crafting materials and just buy and instantly make a whole bunch of high-end stuff, and that would really kind of undercut the whole economy of purples that were meant to be bought with dilithium. So there, and we understand that people are upset about the way crafting is working out. But as I mentioned before, we are looking at revamping the crafting system, and actually J-Man will be a large part of that, since he's actually really passionate about crafting himself.
Awesome.
So,
Enterprise F, do we have any update on what's happening with that?
I don't know if we want to talk about it. The Enterprise F is
it's going to be part of the. Isn't it part coming out when we see the first featured episode? Wasn't that the last official word we got? I think.
Was that an official word?
No, I think that was an unofficial one way back before we saw it as the end.
Okay.
I think you'll see the Enterprise F first quarter.
Okay. There you go. All right.
And the other one's more of a pet peeve for me. It's like, what's going on with the Natra fights and that, where we're not getting blasted by the Tailoron cannon anymore? I've been missing that since way back in KA. You just put Mav in front of the Natra, you wait a couple of seconds, and you'll see a Tailoron cannon. It just always happened.
Yeah. All right. We could ask him 100 questions. We'll compose these questions and put them together for you in another episode. But thanks for coming on, Al, and busting some of those rumors with us.
My pleasure. And sorry I was late. Just had a little emergency vet visit I had to deal with.
Dude, no worries. We understand. Hey, you know how it goes. Hey, the pets and the children, I know all about that kind of stuff. So, all right. That just about wraps up this week's episode of Stoked. Now, like we mentioned a couple times, we're off next week, but we will be back the Saturday of the 17th over at jblive.tv at 11 a.m. Pacific, which means you'll have your next episode of Stoked on December 20th, and we're going to have all kinds of great stuff for that episode, so be sure to come back then and join us for another great episode. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching this week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.